Recently, I was watching some clips from some news channels and I found something quite odd. It was news about a very sensitive topic and there were good arguments from both the right and the left side. I felt like the subject matter could have easily been solved if both parties were just willing to listen, but you can see where I'm going with this, right? I was going through the comment section of both Fox News and MSNBC channels and the people in the comments were just in total agreement with each other. And the arguments from the other side were nowhere to be seen. I oftentimes like to view both sides of the argument and look at things rationally. There are times when I'm fully on one side of the argument, but there are also a lot of times where I think the solution to the problem lies somewhere in between. It feels like both wings are just in a world of their own. The Venn diagram of this just kind of looks like this. And this kind of got me thinking, this kind of behavior from people can be seen in a lot of things. People often join certain groups that have similar viewpoints and ideals, but it also feels as if the group itself is holding the person back from thinking critically. It doesn't even have to be something serious like politics, but even some stupid stuff like which phone is better. There are whole threads where people argue which phone is better and the whole blue bubble, green bubble thing. It's okay if you have a preference, but neither of the billion-dollar companies really care about you writing that lengthy Reddit post. Why do people join groups? According to Google, joining groups satisfies our need to belong, gain information, and understanding through social comparison, define our sense of self and social identity, and achieve goals that might elude us if we worked alone. Yeah, that sounds about right. Human beings are social animals to begin with. We have evolved to be in a group for security, knowledge, and to achieve a certain goal. We feel safe when we are around like-minded people and are able to express ourselves more freely. Groups also promote teamwork and enable everyone to do the best they can. Humans have been following this system since the dawn of time and it's worked out fine till now. But the problems associated with this system are still clear. The exploitation of human emotions by a charismatic leader, the need to conform to fit the standard, and a sense of alienation from other groups that have difference in opinion. Now the problem with a lot of groups is that they always try to push a certain agenda that aligns with the narrative. The people in the groups are expected to comply and just say yes without question. It's kind of always been hard to stand up against a group of people, and even now the fear of being an outcast and FOMO has kept the people in check. So that's kind of why you convince yourself that the last Thor movie, it really wasn't that bad, was it? A lot of groups put up walls and make it hard to hear what the other side has to say, and oftentimes leads to dismissal of their ideas entirely. This just restricts people from rational thinking and encourages people to behave in a certain way. With the internet, it seems like every crazy idea has at least like 5 Facebook groups. Social engineering has enabled hate to spread and recruit other people to do the same, and it seems like hate is spreading more than ever before. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Empathy is a quality that should be learned by every individual. It's what helps bring people closer and resolve misunderstandings and tension. Lack of empathy can be caused due to many factors, such as being in an environment where it wasn't cool to talk about your feelings, a general lack of guidance from their parents, and inability to connect their feelings to others. A lot of people just lack empathy in general. Empathy is a quality that should be taught to children from an early age, because lack of empathy in adulthood leads to lacking of self-compassion, self-love, and a disconnect from reality and facts. Luckily, human beings are able to rewrite their brain chemistry, but the person has to be open to the idea itself. We kinda all know people who are so stuck up that they can't listen to reason and can only view the world in a certain way. I'll link an article on how to deal with such people in the description, but the point is, modern social engineering has made it possible for you to be in a bubble and stay there forever. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and even YouTube optimize their algorithms so that you spend as much time as possible on these platforms. These companies are incentivized to keep you in the bubble and make you spend more time on them. Interactions with various people of different experiences help us form identities unique to our own, help us discover ourselves and question the things that were shoved down our throats. The story of Derek Black is a perfect example of how curiosity and genuine conversation can change our outlook on life. I highly recommend you check out his story, but in a nutshell, Derek Black is the son of a KKK Grand Wizard and was pretty much raised in a racist environment for his whole life, until he was forced to step out of his comfort zone. After going into a regular college with students of different races, seeing as how he was treated differently for being affiliated with the KKK, he started to question why. He was able to have conversations with black students, and eventually he was able to change his mindset. In his story, he said it took several meetings before he was able to question his own beliefs and views. And that is what's realistic for most people. There is no light switch. It takes years of constant feedback and conversations, and that too if they are curious in the first place. It's not easy.
To change the system so that we're all included and that we can all work forward there. And you have to be the voice in the room doing that, because it doesn't just happen. The status quo is not going to lead us there. The only thing that undermines a white nationalist who's trying to ramp somebody up to a more extreme version of racism is somebody in the room challenging those beliefs, keeping it from escalating and reminding them that what you're saying is wrong.
Do you think white people would be more effective at that? Do you think there could be more white people who are actively doing that, as opposed to, as you said, turning a blind eye and saying like, oh, I don't like that you believe that, but let's still hang out?
It's a white person in the room who has the strongest voice to counteract a racist thought. We were aware of that as white nationalists. We were explicitly aware that if you're talking to somebody and you're trying to get them to go from those Mexicans, or maybe the south side of Chicago is a problem, and get them to escalate into it's about race, we need to be going. The person who's going to ruin that for you is another white person who's saying, stop that, because it's equal. Like they have literal skin in the game, and what they say shuts any sort of white nationalist racist thing you're saying down, and it stops the room. And that's the thing that people can do. That's the thing that people at college did. It's the thing that anyone anywhere can do, is speak up, because being silent is a choice.
Wow.
For a lot of people, it's just easy to stay in their own social circle rather than open up to newer experiences. It's hard for people to engage in conversations and admit that they were wrong. I feel like it's just such a waste now, how the internet has changed so much about our lives, made it so easier for people to connect and talk to each other, but the trajectory of human beings is the same as it was hundreds of years ago. Yeah, it's kind of a strong word, but I think it's fitting. It's a word used mainly for religious stuff, but I think it can be applied to a lot of things, and a lot of groups nowadays have cultist patterns without necessarily being religious. Cults are generally associated with acts of manipulation, brainwashing, indoctrination, and a lot of bad things, but it ultimately leads to an inability to think rationally. A lot of groups can be seen using such tactics to brainwash their members or to bring an audience. Just look at Trump and Alex Jones. It honestly seems crazy to me that Alex Jones has been able to garner an audience. CoffeeZilla kind of made a video talking about this and why he was actually able to do it, so check it out.
All they have to do is say a few basic things that everyone agrees with, and then their audience suddenly thinks they're a genius. I mean, everyone has seen this with Alex Jones, right? You have modern philosopher Joe Rogan seemingly saying that he predicts everything.
Alex is right about far more than he's wrong.
When in reality, Alex Jones is predicting everything sort of all the time. So of course he's going to be right some of the time.
It seems like you can't get cancelled nowadays if you have a big enough following. With that said, I'm planning to have a Stake.com sponsored gambling stream with my homie Drake on my 10 million sub milestone, so stay tuned for that one. So, what did we learn? We learned that even though people are the most connected to each other now, it's also increasingly easier to brainwash people and establish a kind of cult. There seems to be a general lack of empathy in our society, and it's generally holding us back. And big tech is more interested in money than dividing entire nations. But I'm still hopeful. It may seem sometimes that the world is more closed off, cause that's what we get to hear all the time. But I do believe that the world has become a lot more open. People are increasingly showing more tolerance and empathy. The internet has given a voice to a lot of people whose stories would have gone unheard of. And even with the intense lobbying, the government has taken steps for big tech companies to actually take responsibilities. I hope everyone watching right now is able to overcome the difficulties. If you feel that you are in a group where you aren't able to express your thoughts freely and are forced to make decisions, then I hope you find the courage to leave. It can be difficult feeling like an outcast. It can be hard, but try talking to different people and try experiences you are comfortable with. Then only can you truly discover yourself.